Welcome to the Insight Meditation Community of Charlotte. I'm Ward Simmons. I'm one of 6 leaders that rotate responsibility for leading on Wednesday nights. I'm sorry about the temperature. It was really cold. I got up while we were meditating. I warmed it up, maybe too much. Does anybody feel competent with a digital thermostat? Would you be willing to, back in the back corner back there, just keep your eye on it, and if it needs it up or down, make an adjustment? Thank you. So I want to begin this evening by, So welcome to those of you on Zoom. Looks like we've got about 20 people on Zoom, and y'all can't see each other. There are about 30 people here in the room. I want to begin by seeing who is in the room. So let me just see a show of hands. How many of you have been attending this community in less than 3 months? I'm including the Zoomers now. Okay. And how about 3 months to 1 year? Okay. And 1 year to 5 years. Thank you. And then more than 5 years. Great, thanks. And then a different question. How many of you have had experience with other either meditation groups or traditions, if you'll raise your hand? Okay, good, that helps me. So this weekly Wednesday evening Sangha meeting is the core of our community. It nurtures our connections with other like-minded folks, and it's an ideal gateway to this practice. But in a sense, it's only kind of the tip of the iceberg, and there are many other offerings that are available to each of you to build upon to deepen your practice. So let me ask another question. Anybody besides me feel a little bit intimidated when you first began exploring meditation? Yeah, it can feel that way. The Dharma, that is the teachings of insight meditation, the teachings of the Buddha, is at once both beautiful in its simplicity and also profound in its depth. And part of entering into the Dharma is mastering some unfamiliar concepts, but a lot of it is simply clearing away accumulated mental clutter, habits and perceptions that are deeply ingrained by our culture, which is pretty far removed from the Dharma. So I want to share 3 quotes with you that kind of speak to that point. The first one is from the newsletter from Southern Dharma Retreat Center. That's a retreat center here in the North Carolina mountains. This was from December 2005, so 20 years ago this month. And they didn't attribute it to the teacher that spoke it, so I can't attribute it properly. But the quote was, "Meditation is good, but meditation is just a Band-Aid on your spiritual life if your life is cluttered. Simplify your life. That's the most important practice." So that quote is kind of speaking to the idea that the Dharma is beautiful in its simplicity. The second quote comes from Tim Olmsted from his article, The Great Experiment. He says, "We need to give up something. We can't have it all. We can't try to layer wisdom on top of confusion. The spiritual path is about what we give up, not what we get." And then the last quote is from Ajahn Sucitto, a monk and a teacher. He says, "In the unawakened state, we think of happiness as a commodity we have to work hard to get and to hold on to. In awakening, we see happiness is simply what is left when we stop grasping. It is the ground we fall back on when the grasping ends. So those two are kind of speaking to the idea of clearing away the mental clutter. So at times, finding our way into this process can seem a little daunting. And this evening, I'd like to share two things that I hope you will find useful. The first is an overview of what IMC-Charlotte, our community, offers to support you on your journey. And the second is some more detailed information about a specific upcoming offering. So beginning with what our community has to offer, I'll refer to this as our curriculum. Now, we don't hear it referred to in that way, but it does exist, and that's what it is. So I want to distribute a handout. Julie, if you will help me here. Thank you. While Julie's doing that, I'm going to see if I'm competent to share this with those of you on Zoom. It's kind of 50-50. And the answer is no. I'm sorry about that. I spent a fair amount of time making sure that I would be able to, and it's not going to happen. So this handout, and those of you on Zoom can kind of follow along with what I say, is broken down. It breaks the Sangha's offerings down into practice and study and other or both, those three categories. And this distinction between practice and study, there's not a bright line between practice and study. This handout makes it appear that way, but in most cases, there are elements of study in our practice and there are elements of practice in our study. So this breakdown is just to organize things for this handout. For many folks, this Wednesday weekly Sangha is their primary source of Dharma teachings. And it is our most consistent and visible and accessible offering. Attending Wednesday evenings, it doesn't require any invitation. It doesn't require a membership. It doesn't require dues or fees. Among other things, it fosters a sense of community with like-minded people. And that's so essential as we navigate this path because we really are swimming against the stream of our culture. And I want to be clear that if all you ever do is attend Wednesday evenings, that is immensely valuable. These other offerings can be great, but Wednesday evenings is valuable on its own. So a few moments ago, I asked about the experience of those in the room tonight, and you can see that our group is very diverse in terms of experience. We have a beautiful range, a wide range of practitioners. Now, teaching to that group can be challenging. And as teachers, we are constantly seeking to balance what we offer. Some talks will meet the needs of those who are relatively new. Some will meet the needs of people who've been practicing for longer. And we try to strike some kind of a balance. And that's where the rest of our curriculum comes in. the rest of the iceberg. So let's look at the handout for a moment. Under practice, there are three main sections: Sangha practice, home practice, and retreat practice. And as your practice matures, most people find they want elements of all three of those. Under Sangha practice, we have Wednesday evenings. You know about that because you're here. We have Tuesday noon Zoom and Thursday morning Zoom. Those are good for people who, for one reason or another, can't participate on Wednesday, or for people who want more than one opportunity to be with Sangha during the week. And also, Wednesday evenings, we periodically have guest leaders. One example is in October, we had this group of Tibetan monks here. They were our guest leader on a Wednesday night. The home practice, we hope that you choose to develop a home practice, and we encourage that. And then retreat practice. We offer half-day and day-long retreats on an occasional basis. In November, Debbie and Larry led a day-long retreat on awareness during the holidays, a very timely topic. And on January 17th, if I'm not mistaken, registration is open. Thea will be offering practices for unprecedented times. I don't know about you, but it feels like we might be in unprecedented times. The next item is the IMC-Charlotte residential retreat. That's annual. This year that'll be from September 10th through the 13th. And as we get closer, you'll see it in the newsletter. The registration will open, and you can consider whether you want to take a 3-night, 4-day residential retreat. And then residential retreats at retreat centers or with other sanghas. So that's kind of what I've classified as practice. In the study area, I've broken it down between structured and individual study. The first is our introduction class. That's a half-day class. We try to offer it about twice a year. Clyde offered this in October. The next item, the fundamental series over several weeks. We try to offer that about twice a year. And that begins on January 8th, and I'm going to circle back to that. That's going to be the second part of tonight's talk. Book groups on a selected book on an occasional basis. And interestingly, on the 12th of February, Debbie and Larry will be leading a book group on the book Relax and Be Aware. And if I'm not mistaken, registration is open for that book group. Then there are the next item beyond the basic series. So that would be, for example, a 4-week series on a topic that whoever is teaching feels inspired to teach on. In the past, I've led beyond the basic series on the heavenly messengers. If you're not familiar with that, it is the Buddha's teaching on old age, illness, and death. Now that might not sound very heavenly, but if you participate in a 4-week series, you will come away understanding why, in fact, it is quite heavenly. Also, I've led a 4-week series on the 5 aggregates of clinging, another topic you'll hear referenced here, and also on the Buddha's teaching on selflessness or not self. So this is an opportunity for people with more experience to pursue more advanced topics. We also offer this year-long Dharma study and practice program. We offer that every several years, and it is underway now. It began in April, and it'll go until March. So those are the structured study opportunities that I want to mention. And then, of course, individual reading. Most of us, once we're on this path, we are inspired to read and study on our own. And finally, what I've classified as other or both, there are KM, or Kalyanamita groups, that's translated usually as spiritual friends, small group of people that meet on a monthly basis, for example, and usually once a group forms, it becomes a closed group so that people meet over a period of years, and it's a more intimate level of sharing because you're with the same people in a small group. Usually that'll include some study, reading a book or studying a certain teaching. It'll include some time for practice, and then personal sharing and, comparing notes of how practice is going. And also sometimes we have guest speakers, not on Wednesdays, but maybe a Saturday retreat by a teacher that's in town or something. So, anyway, I hope that gives you some sense of the progression that we're trying to cultivate here and offer to you. These are supplementary to Wednesday evenings, and this way we can meet the needs, your needs. As a diverse group, we can meet your needs more directly than we can in a large group. So I want to circle back now to the fundamentals of Insight Meditation series that is highlighted in yellow on your handout. In the past, this was referred to as the basics of Insight Meditation. How many people in the room have participated in this series? Anybody? Okay, I see. Yeah, a lot of hands going up. Yeah. So once one is oriented to the practice and to our community, I think this is the most effective way to advance your practice. It's time limited. In this case, it'll be 6 weeks. It's a deep dive into the Dharma. The text that I like to use and that we'll be using in this upcoming series is called Finding the Missing Piece, and it's by a monk by the name of Ajahn Amaro. And he's an interesting fellow. He's British born. He's now 69 years old. And like many young people, many of us in the 1970s, he was looking for more meaning than what he describes as his life of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. So he went to Thailand, and after some searching, he ordained as a Theravadan monk. And he ordained under the renowned Thai forest master Ajahn Chah. That'll be a name that some of you are familiar with. And after a few years, he returned to England, and he resided primarily at Amaravati Monastery, where the abbot was Ajahn Sumedho, another name you'll be familiar with, some of you. During the 1990s, Ajahn Amaro began traveling to Northern California and teaching there. And in 1996, he and another Ajahn, another monk, Ajahn Pasano, decided that they were going to found and become the co-abbots of a monastery in Northern California. They did that with the blessing of Ajahn Sumedho and the support of that. And he served there. Ajahn Amaro served as the co-abbot until 2010, when Ajahn Sumedho decided to retire from the monastery in England, and he asked Ajahn Amaro to assume that role, which he did, and he still serves in that role. So he's quite a distinguished monastic and teacher. So circling back to the Fundamentals series, it'll be from 6:30 to 8:30 on 6 consecutive Thursday evenings. Now, if you think about it, 2 hours, 6 weeks, that's a 12-hour block of time. We can cover a lot more in 12 hours than we can cover here in 20 or 25 minutes. Beginning first on January 8th, the text that we'll be using is derived from a 6-week series that Ajahn Amaro taught in 2002. So it has these 6 lessons, plus each week has guided meditation and then a question and answer component. And I want to just give you a kind of a brief idea of what will be included in this series. The first, what he calls lesson, the first chapter, is entitled Posture and Focus. And just to give you a little taste, one of the points he makes is posture, there's the physical posture, but awfully important is the mental posture. And so he's giving us direction about the mental posture we want to hold as we approach a meditation practice. The second lesson or chapter is movement and stillness. We think of movement as being physical, but he brings in the connection to the mind. When we're experiencing monkey mind, when the mind won't hold still, guess what? That's movement. And as we move from a kind of a distracted, busy mind to a more stable, concentrated mind, that is a movement towards stillness. The third lesson or chapter is thinking versus knowing. And he addresses the topics of the impersonal nature of experience and working with the self. So there we're kind of touching into the Buddha's teaching on selflessness or not self. The fourth lesson or chapter is he entitles the Giving and Receiving Heart. Here, you would hear us refer to that as metta or loving kindness practice. And one of the points he makes is about how our metta practice establishes tranquility in our minds. It benefits others, but it really brings tranquility to our minds, which supports our meditation practice. The fifth lesson or chapter is wisdom and compassion. And here we hear about the 2 wings of the Dharma. The Dharma takes flight on the 2 wings of wisdom and compassion. And here he includes a discussion of watching the mind create the sense of self. He also addresses 3 characteristics of existence, which you have probably heard mentioned in here: impermanence, suffering, and selflessness. And finally, the 6th lesson or chapter is entitled Hurdles and Pitfalls. In here you would hear us refer to that as the hindrances to meditation, the 5 hindrances. So he's a great author, in my opinion, and this is a good book, and I think it's going to be a good series. Our sessions are intended to be interactive, so I'll present some material each session, but then there'll be a chance for us to have questions and answers, to have conversation, for you to hear what your fellow Sangha members, how they're experiencing what's being taught. So anyway, I hope that if there are 12 slots in this series that begins on January 8th. I think about half of them are filled now. If that is of interest, like I say, we offer it about twice a year, so if it's of interest to you and this timing feels right, it probably won't be offered again until the fall. And I hope this talk has also given you a better sense of what our Sangha offers, an overview of what we offer, and how it might fit in with where you are on this path, how these offerings can support you in your practice. And I'll close with a quote from Ajahn Amaro's book. He says, the point of meditation is not just to be able to sit still for a long period of time, unconcerned with sore knees, or to make the breath sacred, even though the breath is central and significant. The point is to live as a harmonious human being, as a blessing for oneself and others, to make one's life as meaningful as possible. So I'll offer that for your consideration.